1. Speak freely, lead thoughtfully. What works well? Es bueno. Effective and influential leaders create environments where every voice is valued, where people feel safe to speak, heard when they do, and empowered to contribute. These leaders act with integrity, whether or not anyone is watching, and in doing so, they build trust, the foundation of high performing teams, as demonstrated in the success of many projects. Open communication must be the foundation of every meaningful interaction. But it's not just about encouraging speech, it's about understanding that people process thoughts differently. As a leader, it's your role to invite voices to the table, know when to step back and listen, and when to step in and guide the conversation. This is intentional, human centered leadership. It's not enough to say, you have permission to speak freely. Those words need to be backed by action. Authentic leadership creates safe spaces where people feel they can express their thoughts and concerns without fear of judgment. This kind of leadership isn't just a noble ideal, it's a necessity. It's how you build cultures where psychological safety, empowerment, and agility are a lived reality, not just buzzwords. And in these spaces, no one gets left behind. Leadership is the embodiment of trust and respect. When you encourage people to share their ideas without fear and lead by example, you create an environment where your team can thrive. For any organization to flourish, open dialogue must be encouraged. Not everyone speaks up the same way or at the same pace, and that's perfectly okay. But you can't lead thoughtfully without giving your people the space to think, and that's how real progress is made. Marianne Radmacher once said, "Courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes courage is the quiet voice at the end of the day, saying, 'I will try again tomorrow.'" I think of this when I see team members who speak up cautiously but consistently. It is their quiet courage that moves us forward. Effective leadership doesn't always make noise. Sometimes it's as simple as providing the space to let others try again, knowing they won't be judged for it. It's not about forcing the loudest voices to be heard. It's about recognizing that even the quietest contributions carry immense value. This is how leadership cultivates an environment of trust, where every voice has room to grow. Real world experience. Since 1998, I've led high stakes projects, fostering cultures that affirm the belief that every voice matters. In these environments, open communication isn't a luxury, it's critical. It's the tool we use to surface risks and find innovative solutions that might remain hidden in more closed off spaces. One high pressure project comes to mind. With tight deadlines, we were under enormous pressure. An introverted team member flagged a potential integration issue no one else had noticed. They asked, "Are we sure all the data formats are compatible across systems?" Because we had built a culture where every voice mattered, we caught the issue early, saving the project from expensive delays. This experience showed me how powerful open communication is. When people know they can speak freely without fear of reprisal, they become more engaged, creative, and committed to the team's success. Another lesson came from a meeting scheduled at the top of the hour, where a manager condescendingly expressed frustration about having to pull things out of me. To them, my silence looked like disengagement. But anyone who knows me understands that when I care about something, I will always speak up if I feel safe enough to do so. At that moment, I was trying to make sense of the conversation, going through mental gymnastics, trying to find the right questions and responses. My silence wasn't reluctance, it was reflection. I process deeply and often challenge assumptions for the collective good. Had that leader taken the time to understand me, they'd have seen my silence as a thoughtful pause, not disengagement. The real lesson here: forcing conversations without context or grace can shut down deeper insights. The best ideas often need space to breathe, and great leaders understand the value of reflection. That balance, knowing when to push for immediate feedback and when to allow for deeper thought, creates the conditions for true collaboration. If leaders say it's okay to speak freely in one meeting and then reprimand someone for taking up too much space in the next, that inconsistency also creates confusion. It sends mixed messages about participation. and it makes it impossible for people to feel they truly have permission to speak freely. Leadership without clarity isn't leadership at all. What doesn't work so well? No bueno. Creating a space where people feel empowered to speak up is essential. But if that space is silenced, or worse, people are made to fear speaking up, it stifles creativity. Leaders who knowingly or inadvertently shut down input create environments of mistrust, disengagement, and stagnation. This leads to a breakdown in innovation. When people feel their words might be used against them, or worse, weaponized, they stop contributing. They stop caring. The pressure to meet shifting expectations can create a toxic atmosphere, leaving team members navigating confusion and uncertainty. Being treated dismissively is one of the most damaging actions a leader can take, undermining dignity and respect. This behavior can lead even the most extroverted individuals to internalize the belief that speaking less is essential for survival. Seneca's words, difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. Remind us that while challenges can fortify us, enduring toxic or dismissive behavior is simply wrong. That's when you stop spending excessive time managing up and start focusing on how to best manage yourself out of toxic environments. I want to be surrounded by good energy, not negativity. I've seen these dynamics play out repeatedly. Countless meetings where leaders lecture, invalidate others' experiences, and then ask, "Are there any questions?" only to be met with silence, followed by rants about expectations they themselves don't follow. Once, a colleague confided that when a visibility annoyed leader kept repeatedly asking for questions, they wanted to say, "Yes, when is your last day?" That's how many of us feel about leaders who pretend to care and ask for input when the only thoughts they want to entertain are their own. This disconnect between asking for feedback and genuinely valuing it is frustrating and disheartening. In the past, I also fell into the trap of assuming that silence means acceptance, as that's what I was taught by other leaders. However, silence can mean many things, and assuming it always signals agreement can lead to misunderstandings. Thoughtful leaders know this and create space for reflection, discerning when immediate feedback is necessary and when to allow deeper thought. This balance is essential for fostering true collaboration. The gap between stated values and actual behaviors undermines trust and creates disillusionment. If leaders don't truly value input, it becomes evident to the team and they begin to disengage. This kind of inconsistency can push even the most committed employees to question whether their voices are truly valued. The pressure to meet shifting expectations can also foster a toxic atmosphere, leaving team members lost in confusion. Dismissive leadership is one of the most corrosive behaviors a leader can display. It chips away at dignity and respect. It teaches even the most extroverted people that the safest path is silence. That's a dangerous lesson, and it's how you lose the trust of your team. Imagine an axe in the forest saying to the trees, "I'm one of you." At first, the trees believe it because the axe's handle is made of wood, something they recognize and trust. But with each swing, the axe's true purpose becomes clear. It's there to cut them down, not stand beside them. The trees soon realize that just because the axe looks like them doesn't mean it's there to protect them. Instead, it's a tool of harm, camouflaged as something familiar, weakening the forest from within. This is what it's like when some leaders say they're one with the team, but act as though their agenda is different. Their words don't match their actions. When the values a leader claims to uphold don't align with what they do, people notice. Disengagement sets in. Eventually, team members may feel they have no choice but to suffer silently or look for new opportunities. Engaging with HR, often referred these days as people management, can feel ineffective in these situations. In many workplaces, HR's role can appear to prioritize maintaining the status quo over addressing employee concerns. Based on my own experiences and stories shared by friends and family, I've rarely witnessed situations where substantial evidence led to the right actions. More often, HR defends leadership, using tactics that reverse the roles of victim and offender. This approach can discourage individuals from speaking freely, as we are often dismissed. However, it's important to remember that not all HR departments are the same. Some, I hear, are evolving, with a growing focus on promoting well being and fostering psychological safety. That said, these dynamics highlight the need for individuals to advocate for themselves, documenting key interactions, focusing on performance, and seeking mentors who can provide guidance in navigating unproductive environments. These tools help bridge the gap between where a team or individual currently stands and where true change can be realized. Pharrell Williams' song Freedom speaks directly to this practice. It's about creating spaces where people can express themselves freely without fear of retribution. Leadership, at its core, is about breaking down the barriers that stifle creativity and innovation. When team members are given the freedom to speak, share their insights, and offer their ideas without fear of backlash, the magic of collaboration happens. That's when a team truly soars. This concludes Chapter 1. Please proceed to Chapter 2. Listen to empower. Transform teams through conversations.